Selectboard for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. Are there any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
3 items to add.
Sure.
The first one would be, could be budget, after the budget, number 5, the authorizations for USDA grant for elevator repairs.
Okay.
The second would be an executive session to discuss pending civil litigation for 1 VSA 313A13. And an executive session regarding contracts for 1 VSA 313A1A.
And that's item number 7.
Executive session.
Yeah, an executive session toward the very end, after other business.
Okay.
Do we have all those paper, just green things to read?
I don't.
I have the motions.
She has.
He's got one here.
Okay. Got that on the list. Let's move down to approve the minutes of the November 21st, 2017 meeting.
So moved?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as printed?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Minutes are approved. Okay, moving down to public comment on items not on the agenda. It'll be 3 minutes per person. We'll try to get everybody that would like to speak the opportunity to speak. So do we have any public comment? Deborah?
Yeah, just quickly, I know you have a budget item on here. I just wanted to, as an overview, say that we're all aware that the education taxes this next coming year will be somewhere 8-9% coming down the pike. The village voters reduced the budget significantly this last fiscal year. I anticipated that the bulk of the Rockingham Town voters, they will also wish to do the same with the town budget. So all I'm asking is that you consider strongly reducing your budget on your own in order to eliminate a significant reduction in budget during the annual meeting. So it doesn't restrict your funding. If you find the cuts yourself, they won't have to. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, not hearing any, we're going to move down to the manager's report.
First, I wanted to offer a happy birthday to Gaetano. His birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday. The auction for municipal surplus vehicles and equipment ended on Friday, and it went quite well. Just want to give you an idea of some of the items. We had a 2002 Dodge Ram pickup, which we got $1,550 for. The 03 Chevy Silverado pickup, we got $4,420. The 04 Chevy Silverado pickup, $1,545. And the 06 GMC dump truck, we got $14,900. We declined in a couple of offers for things that we really think we ought to got quite a bit more on. And we also did counter offers on a couple like plow blades and things like that. But all in all, it went pretty well. Village also did very well, and I'll be reporting to the trustees at their next meeting.
How much did we make, the town?
A little over 20.
Okay.
Regarding 38 Green Street, and the board wished to put this out to public auction at $40,000, if you'll recall. I met with Hershak auctioneers at the site the other day, and they declined to take the property for to auction it. They felt that was too high. Their recommendation was to list it with a local broker and start at a level and maybe come down once a month or something like that. But that was their strong recommendation. The number they gave us was right, kind of almost exactly what I had recommended a couple of months ago. Unfortunately, we've got over $45,000 into this property.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to get anywhere near that.
But we had to try.
Yeah.
We had to try and get our money back.
What was
So-
your number? What?
Talking
I don't know if
25
you
right
want-
now.
Well, in that area, yeah.
I would probably, my preference would be to probably stay away from a broker or something do a, for sale by owner type thing. Reason for that is because if you get involved with a broker, you get time frames involved with that. You also have commissions involved with that. But going back to history, we had a fire damaged property that the town ended up taking, and the village up on Red Light Hill, which was in the very end was split between the neighbors down the middle, basically to increase their lot size.
Mhm.
Out of recollection, of course, it's been a long time, we had, I think, between water and sewer, back taxes and cleanup, et cetera, maybe 60 some odd thousand into that. And to be honest with you, I think when we ended up selling the property, I dare say we might have taken in about 12 for it.
Yep.
So the question is, do we hold on to it? We're not really into the real estate business, but I mean, or do we, get what we can for it and get back on the tax roll and
Yeah, I'd
stuff?
like someone else to own it by April 1st, so we can.
Yeah. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's not the right time of the year anyway to sell anything, I wouldn't think.
But I mean, it'd be nice to realize that. Realistically, I don't think we would get anywhere near that.
Right. Anyway, I just wanted to report back to the
Yeah.
board on that, and tried and didn't work. I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Sure.
Regarding 10 Church Place, you may recall I applied for grant and loan funding through the Wyndham Regional Commission. Unfortunately, we're not selected, and I've expressed my dismay with Wyndham Regional about this and want to find out why, but there are other avenues for borrowing to do it. I think that's the only way we'd be able to really make this happen this fiscal year, given the cost of it. And so right now, the budget does include the first of 3 payments of roughly $40,000 of a loan. We can always change that, but I'll find out on Friday. Susan McMahon's not back until Friday, and I can talk to her further about that and see if what other avenues we have. But it's a major, major disappointment. I've yet to get the bids out on the other tax deeded properties. That will happen this week, and I apologize, it's been rather busy in my office. Lastly, in response to the 2017 reappraisal for the town prepared by the Lister's Office, PVR, which is the Department of Tax Property Valuation and Review Division of the state, evaluated the work and last week issued an evaluation report which said that everything was done satisfactorily, and cheers to the listers for doing a really good job. A lot of municipalities struggle to do a reval and sometimes contract it out. We have a bunch of real professionals who are able to do that at a fraction of the cost of a professional contractor. Anyway, that's what I have.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, let's move down to the first item on the agenda, which is going to be Greater Falls Connections, Debra Grant. Hi. Why don't you come right in?
Can I give you these?
Sure,
Okay, because I didn't make the copy in time.
thank you.
Thank you. Here. So I'm the board chair for Greater Falls Connections, and I've been a volunteer for three or 4 years now. I'm an educator in the community, and I often see both youth and adults that I work with in education derail their goals and aspirations because of substance use, and that is why I'm part of the coalition now and why I'm here today to talk to you. There's a few things I just wanted to share with you about our organization, and you may know these things or you may not. I'm supposed to stand too long. Our main focus is to promote wellness and prevent alcohol, tobacco, and other drug abuse. And we do this by bringing people together in this community, and we do a lot of support for youth and families. We have a wide network of community partners, nearly 200 individuals, organizations, and agencies in this community that we work with, including business owners, social service programs, our educators, youth and parents. And we're a very unique organization in that we do engaged with all sectors in the community. We do provide high-quality training and other educational opportunities for parents, youth, vulnerable populations, our educators, and other agencies. A couple of examples are Guiding Good Choices, which is a workshop series that helps to reduce, so we work with parents and youth trying to reduce the substance abuse in ages 8 to 13, so that they come up with strategies and better decisions around behaviors. You might recall that we, in March, sponsored The Opiate Effect at the library, a film and discussion later. This is another educational opportunity for the community. We also work with youth in Above the Influence program, which is working with, this is a lot of leadership development for the youth. They become mentors and guides for other youth students around above the Influence curriculum. Since the founding of this coalition 11 years ago, we've seen measurable successes in the work we've done, including a decline in the use of alcohol by Bellows Falls Union High School students since 2009. We've had significant reduction, significant increase in the number of high school youth knowing that their parents approve of underage drinking. That means more parents are talking about this with their youth. This is all reported through the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Also decrease in the number of youth misusing prescription drugs since 2013. In 2011, this community was chosen as the Drug-Free Community Support Program grantee for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is a 10-year grant totaling $1.25 million. And this has helped to fund a lot of programs. Also, for the last 2 summers, we've been able to take our after-school advanced Above the Influence youth group to leadership conferences, a Youth-to-Youth International 4-day leadership conference in Rhode Island. And we can see direct results from this as well. You may notice that there's an increase in youth that are involved in Rockingham Old Home Days in volunteering and in helping and organizing. Also, the same youth organized Parkapalooza. So this initially started by adults in the community, and youth has taken over. And just next week, when we have host our community dinner at Stone Church, the same youth group bring back leadership. So they organize the cooking and the program and everything. So there's a lot of positive things that we've been doing. And it's really showing. Very proud of it. So I want to make you aware that Greater Falls will be doing a petition for the town's budget for $4,000. We're actively pursuing signatures at this time, and we have many of our signups in local businesses around the square, at the community dinners, Park Place, and places like that around town. And that's my.
Very nice. Okay, my
Thank you.
question would be, you're welcome. You mentioned that your grant probably goes to about 2021 for the federal grant
Yeah.
for $1.2 million. What would your plans be for the $4,000 that you're petitioning for?
That would go to, so the programs that we're, the youth programs like the Above the Influence and the Leadership Conference are directly from a different grant that we won't have anymore, the whole grant. And so that money is specifically going to go to youth program. It'll go to those things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers the question. Any other questions by board members, Ann? or-
So how do you know drinking is down? Just by a survey?
It's the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and Deb might have other information. So this is the reporting of students that they report their use of it. Do you want to say?
Yeah, the YRBS, Youth Risk Behavioral Survey, is a nationally recognized standard for measuring youth substance use. And we have consistently seen amazing downward trends in terms of behaviors that we really do not want to see. And personally, for myself, I've been doing this work. I've been here for 7 years, and we're just blown away by, we're actually leading the state in terms of what children are saying that our parents are actually speaking to us. And we've worked really hard on that, sending the message like, parent conversations matter, teen brains matter, Our most recent campaign was, I will be a parent, not a best friend. So we try to do positive messaging. The school's also doing amazing work as well. They have a great student assistant professional in Heather Warrius, and we do have a memorandum of agreement with them. So we are seeing significant declines consistently, and you should all be really proud of this community because you're working hard and you have amazing families here.
Because when you, at the town meeting, we do expect some budget increases. And so actually adding to the social service petition, so that's another 4,000. So people will ask you those questions. And they like to see bang for the buck.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Truly, so that is great.
Thank you.
I would support that.
Okay, Tom?
So the survey was every kid at the high school was asked this question, or
this-
just random people?
No,
and then
this is actually, if you participate, you're mandated by whatever state you're in. You need to actually have the majority of the students participate. It is optional, parents, a letter goes home, and if you don't feel comfortable as a parent, your child, you can sign a form and your child can opt out. But I believe you need at least 60% of the population minimally for it to be, accepted. I've seen schools in other states where they haven't had that rate of participation. So,
So if you get at least 60%.
Oh, yeah,
we could
yeah.
probably find out.
yeah, we could definitely get you that
We could do
data
that.
exactly in terms of how many students participate regularly in the
You
survey.
might want to have that at town meeting.
Absolutely.
Because people like handouts.
Yeah.
Kaz, any questions?
None.
Any follow-up?
Good presentation.
Members of the board? Okay, any members of the public have any questions for the Greater Falls Connection? Okay, great, thank you for the presentation. I'm just going to take a moment here. I want to recognize some people here that are here tonight. The Dennis Jeffrey, the Rockingham Fire Chief, one of the firefighters, Jim Smith, former Select Board member, Peter Golick, and current Bellows Falls trustee, Debra Grant. Thank you guys for coming to the meeting, girls. Okay, moving down to the next agenda item, discuss fire department services in Bellows Falls. Manager.
I'll start off on that, and I distributed to the board, and you possibly read the newspapers as well, that the trustees on the 28th tasked me as follows. Well, they made a motion to investigate the process of dissolving the Bellows Falls Fire Department in an orderly manner and to end fire protection services provided by the Bellows Falls Village Corp. And then also made a motion to have the municipal manager excuse me, research the means and methods of carrying out such process, including the transfer of all assets and liabilities to the town of Rockingham, and to report back his findings in writing to the Bellows Falls trustees on December 15th. So I've begun that process, and obviously it's vitally important that the select board weigh in and discuss this. And the research I've done is I've spoken to the state fire marshal, the town's attorney, a little bit with the village attorney, but also we've, with the town clerk and with village clerk, they've done some research on the history of the volunteer fire department. And there's still additional research that needs to be done, but Vermont League of Cities and Towns I also contacted, and I think long story short is with the Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, the volunteer fire department started in 1970, it looks like, and it is a excuse me, not a department of the town. It's a independent, not-for-profit entity registered with the Secretary of State's office, and been in existence since. Good long time.
Yeah. Well, I think when that started in 73 or 4.
And as such, as an independent entity, they cannot, if Bellows Falls were to dissolve its fire department, they would have the, going to correct me if I'm wrong, if I know might be some other mutual aid sort of things I may not know, since I'm still in the process of looking into this, but they can't be compelled to cover Bellows Falls. At the same time, they could, from what I can see, cover Bellows Falls in one way or another if that were to happen. Obviously, the issue is, if that were to happen, are they based where they are? Are they based in Bellows Falls? Anyway, I just want to throw it up for discussion because there's so many unanswered questions. And but I have, as with my village manager hat on, I need to report to the village trustees on the 15th. So I wanted to find out if you have any recommendations for further review, or if the board's allergic to the whole idea, or...
Statutorily, is there any obligation of the town to provide fire service?
No. Yeah, but under state, under state law, there's no requirement that I'm aware of that requires the town to do it. And further, if the town wants to establish a town department, fire department, as opposed to a independent volunteer department, that would be a vote at town meeting to do that.
Right.
So,
Any thoughts of Bellows Falls establishing a volunteer fire department on their own?
I mean, you're on the trustees. I'm not aware of that discussion. There was discussion through the Fire Implementation Committee that was established some time ago, and I believe that was one of the options discussed, but it was not determined to be it wasn't a recommendation that came out of there. And as you know, the trustees kind of adopted two of those recommendations.
Well, maybe from a town standpoint, maybe that's something that may need some reconsideration again. I know the town board would definitely need a lot more information than what we have. We did have a merger vote that was soundly defeated. So again, I think this is maybe more of a town meeting topic. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Well, people called and emailed me and asked me questions. I said, I have no clue what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So even to read the minutes of the trustees, which I found were printed and sent out the next day, I was kind of shocked, like, really, this is really unprecedented. So they wanted to get that information, out as quickly as possible. I have no knowledge. I refuse to make a decision based on little or no information, something that will impact the town of Rockingham as a whole, increase tax rates if we take over. I can't even begin to even give you an opinion on how I feel about this. I don't think it's even fair to ask us to, you said you wanted some options from us, so you could go forward.
No,
and report back to the
it would
trustees.
not be fair if I didn't talk to the board. I went straight to the trustees and said, I think the town wants to do this, without bouncing this off the board. If the board doesn't have any opinion, I'm totally fine. But with the compressed time frame I have, we have a meeting tonight, just happened last week. And the reason the minutes were done so quickly is Kerry was actually on vacation at the time, so took vacation time to get them done quickly.
So I'm always suspicious of that, because the last time that happened was, the charges were filed against the chair of the select board. So they wanted information out there quickly. And I'm not going to read something in the press and make a decision on what I read there, because, I understand that different people report different facts. So.
I'm not following that, but we
You
just...
said it because it's in the
Kerry's efficient and gets work done quickly, that's all I'm trying to say.
No, I have nothing to do, no
Oh, I
problem
thought you were
with
talking
Kerry
about the
doing
minutes.
that. I'm
I'm
just
sorry,
kind of
but-
questioning it.
Well, I think it's good that the manager gives us, the select board a heads up, and that way the people of the town are aware that, there's criteria that the select board.
But the
may not-
town is not responsible to provide service for the village.
There's no statutory requirement, jump in if you'd like, Dennis, but I'm not aware of any statutory requirement that a town has to provide, or a village has to provide services within its boundaries.
Yes, is there any other questions from the board before I go to the audience?
Well, we're continuing discussion. I'd like to see what
Yeah, that's, I was finding the board the opportunity for Jimmy.
I just want to throw this out there a little bit. We've all talked amongst ourselves, I've talked to a number of the guys in Bellows Falls too. Something just to think about is what we talk, I've been in the fire service here in this town 35 years, seen a lot of stuff. But the difference in what we do in the rural setting versus the village, if you couldn't keep a number of the village fire guys involved, it's a whole different process of what we do. We fight, we don't have, Gaetano, I think you can go where I'm going with this. We don't deal a whole lot with, fire alarms and the type of stuff that goes on in the village. This would be quite a process, I believe, to get, if we could do it, I'm not saying we can't. You never know how many fires you're gonna have a year. We only average 150 maybe in Rockingham. We take care of most all of them. If you added another 150, it'd be a little more difficult, but also the type of firefight we're doing.
But Jim, if I may, you're talking 150 calls, not actual 150 fires.
Well, that's a pretty accurate number of
Really?
fires. We do quite a few out. Because we don't have a lot of false alarms. We have, brush fires,
Right.
fires down, more actual calls. The village has more fire alarm problems, people stuck in an elevator, that's the type of stuff. So it's different for us. We don't deal with that a lot. We're trained in, rural water supply and
Right.
brush fires more than the village
Yeah.
guys are. Not that we all don't do the same training, but experience-wise, we see more of that.
Right.
So the group of guys we have and the group of guys in the village are not used to the same environment of fires.
Sure.
So even if we could do it and wanted to do it and everything worked, it would be quite a process to sort of put it that way if you lost your village guys, which who knows, I don't know where everybody's mindset in this whole thing is, but,
Well,
we'd do anything we can to help, that's for
Could they
sure.
become, just playing things out, they could become members of the Rockingham.
I would
project.
assume if they wanted to, this whole thing could bother a lot of people, and they may not want to,
Right.
We don't know. My shop is next door to the firehouse. I know a lot of the guys have been here, for a long time, but, in all fairness, what we do is different than what they do. This isn't just something that could happen real quickly, I don't think.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
I came to one meeting. I think I was the only select board member there, or the only member from town there. And basically, they told me I had no input because I was on the select board. I said, well, I'm on the select board and you're sitting in a town building that requires a ladder. So you had better know what you're doing before you go ahead and make this decision. And I understand it was the voters who voted for that. So now all of a sudden it's back in our laps. Now we need to make a decision of taking over the whole thing. What are the options?
No, there's no decision for the board necessarily to make. This came from the trustees. I'm approaching the board to see if there's any comment. If you can do whatever you'd like to do, but it's incumbent upon me in doing my analysis and my report to the trustees to make it, approach this board, because if they were to pull the plug, somebody has to.
I
You think
don't
someone has to provide some level of service unless there's none.
think we should wait and see what happens. There's a change going on over there right now, and I've heard a couple certified firefighters that live in the village that would be volunteer or heading up there to fill out an application. So I think at this point, we should I feel as a select board member, getting super involved in the village fire department is, let's see what happens there.
But there's also the opportunity here.
When a fire happens, people come. It's mutual aid, we pay for that. So I think the day-to-day calls, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
There's an opportunity as well. So I'm playing devil's advocate on the other side. So maybe we could, have more discussions on this, and maybe, because I know Saxons River needs and wants a fire station. Rockingham does. We need that space up there. So maybe we could, have like a larger discussion about all of the needs of the village and the town.
Well, I think I'll speak for Dennis anyways, but we really, there is a lot of stuff happening over at the firehouse, and if they need us, of course, we'll help, but from the trustees, we kind of need to know, I guess, be kept in the loop a little bit, just in case you do need help down here. Because we just don't want to hear the pager go off because they're a little tight on help in Bellows Falls, and we didn't know, things are thinned out at all, We have to help, we will.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a little bit different, it's going to be a process, and we'd like to think that the guys up there, everything will work out, but.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
I assure you, and we're doing what we can to proceed through these processes we have to go through. There's
Well,
some
we've
level
all
of
had a
litigation.
working relationship for years, and we all know each other. Get along pretty good, I think. Yeah, it's a different setting from area to area, and we're unpaid volunteers, and, we got a lot, the guys want to do it, and they show up and they do it, and I personally, if they want to keep the paid call, I don't have a problem with it. The guys are used to it. It's not a lot of money. But if we need our help, the only problem is cross-training is a huge thing, and it's just something that wouldn't happen quickly.
Yeah.
But I'll get off my soapbox, that's all I had.
Thanks for your input, Jim. Any other comments from the board or anything? Deborah?
I just want to say that I hope people aren't misconstruing this. The action taken by the trustees was meant to be exploratory. In order for us to have an option, or have it as an option, you can't explore it without us having to have made a motion and ask the manager to take action to direct him to do that. So it wasn't intended as an end game necessarily. And we, of course, would want to keep you in the loop with the manager and so on and so forth, that we have a plan in place, and as far as we can see at this point, it's still headed forward in the direction.
Well, we just want to make sure we're willing to help.
Right, but it is true, when you put that information out there, people become scared and, get agitated, and the reality is, it was exploratory and only meant to give us more information because we never got that information from the fire committee, because we didn't ask for them to do that. But at this point, we thought we should have it.
Well, we're all one big community, and we're all gonna work together. We're here to help. It's a little bit different. If you need our help, it would take a little doing to tweak things around to make it all work. But, we have people that live and work in the village, it's all good. It's kind of, we're not really sure what to expect or know what's going on.
One thing to think about is in the village budget, there is money set aside for a fire department or for fire services. So I'm not speaking for the village trustees, but that could be money that is used by the town for helping to provide these services. So just know that it's not a big sucking sound, if you will, of money for the townsfolk, in that there is money in the village budget.
Oh, the village budget.
In the village budget for fire service. Doesn't mean that the village can't give that money to the select board. They've never discussed that, but it is potentially an option. So, but it's not a liability necessarily this year for the for the town.
Peter?
If there was such a miracle that happened that the town decided in their intelligence to establish a fire department at town meeting, there is a time process that's going to have to take place, I'm assuming. It's not going to happen in a month, I'm sure. Speaking with the cross-training, and if that, what impact is that going to put on you guys?
That's one of the unknowns, I guess. You just never have to.
No, I don't, just,
You don't know, right? I mean,
No, I-
volume, it's hard to say.
It's uncharted territory.
And there's not a whole lot, I wish, if anybody from the village was here too, the department, not a whole lot of interest in the younger population to be firefighters anymore.
Right.
So you've got a lot of us that are aging and that are still hanging in there, but you don't see, there's no real attraction for them anymore. And that's a problem everywhere across the country. And so I don't know. It's very difficult. And I've seen it, I've talked to guys in Springfield. You can't pay guys to be firemen anymore sometimes, it's just not, I guess if you can't Google it up and deal with it, you don't want to do it, but, in my opinion.
Okay, any need for any further discussion? Does the board feel comfortable? We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda.
So there's no resolution? Did Shane get his needs met about what he needs to bring back?
I think
He was just letting us know.
heads up.
I don't think we need to do
I know, but
it.
is he satisfied with what he can bring back to the trustees?
We didn't really say anything.
You can ask me, I'll tell you.
So,
I mean, It's fine. I mean, what I want to do is just bring it up with the board. If there were comments on it, I'll bring those back to the trustees. If the board, made a decision, I'd let them know that. If there's no decision, I'll let them know that. I'm not judgmental about it, but as part of the process of doing due diligence, looking into this, I have an obligation, frankly, to bring it up with the
I would almost guess from the sound of what I'm hearing that the board has pretty much identically the same questions and concerns as the trustees do. We may bat it around a little bit differently, but I, for one, have no great light bulb going off. I wish I did. I think I speak for my fellow board members. A lot of concerns, a lot of questions, and it seems like time is going to have to be a factor.
A lot of unknowns.
The big thing is the financial part of it. We have no idea what that would do for the budget for the town of Rockingham. And a lot of people have said this looks like merger, another backdoor attempt at merger to them, and then what next? The police department. So I'm just saying that those are some of the concerns I've heard, because we have no information really to go on.
Right, this just happened last Tuesday, and I've been, bit of a bomb dropped, and we're working through it. And, I fully intend on the 15th to have a written report for the trustees that, provides information. Some of the background information that the clerks have found is really pretty interesting stuff. There was a town meeting article about creating a fire district out there, and that was passed over back in 1972. Just interesting stuff.
What is a hose and reel? What does that mean? What's the definition of a hose and reel company?
Just an offshoot of the fire department.
Yeah, it's
usually the private company or something like that.
So it's not like they're restricted to stuff because they're under this category, right? Because some fire departments are hose and reel and others aren't. So that's why I was just curious.
Hook and ladder.
Hook and ladder, hose and reel? Okay.
Well, thank you for the input. And
Moving on to item number 3, traffic safety lighting and CAS.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Not a lot of controversy in this. I'll pass this folder down. This is a collection of photos that I took off my phone after dark. Starts on one end in the square and moves north off Rockingham Street. I did a lot of poking around, a lot of imagineering, a lot of backtracking. Right off the bat, I can put one concern to rest. Our crosswalks are in exactly correct dimension to nearest parking spaces by AOT regulation. I got out my measure wheel because it appears tight visually, but according to my measure wheel, they are all a minimum of 20 feet from the nearest crosswalk, 20 feet from the nearest parking space. So that was one thing that Marcus Miller had mentioned to me as being a concern if we had crowded the crosswalks at all with parking spaces. It was my concern as well, but it proved out, well, that's not a concern.
This is about lighting also. Did he say anything about the lighting?
Well, we talked about the lighting a little bit, and of course, basically he said, well, we're road guys up at AOT.
Yeah.
We have done studies about lighting, he said, but that's really from ground up where you are.
Yeah.
And I did take a good look at that. Quickly to cover some popular suggestions that basically will not work for our situation. I talked to him at length and did a lot of looking about road surface alteration. My one-time suggestion about possibly considering rumble grooves cut into pavement, he confirmed for me that virtually everywhere that's been tried in Vermont, noise becomes a big factor and is disruptive to virtually any community, no matter how light the residence is, even to mercantile situations. The noise becomes immediately a disruptive factor. So that's found to be largely unsuccessful in the state. We talked about road surface alteration, lane buttons, and rumble strips. And he said they have negligible effect on low-speed situations. And I'm referring basically to the downtown portion of Rockingham Street, right by PK's, past the diner, that area up to the Canal Street where we've had incidents. Long story short, I took all this into consideration, and based on everything I saw and considered, I have basically 2 recommendations that I think would make a very valuable difference. One thing I noticed is the square has much better illumination. And what I deduced from looking at that from all angles was the difference in illumination between the square and Rockingham Street is that virtually all the streetlights on the square are double globe, whereas they run to single globe going up Rockingham Street. And the difference in illumination, if you actually walk it out, is, I think, stunning. You lose about, I would say, 30 to 40% of the power of your illumination when you go from the double globes to the single globes. So that would be one recommendation for the board to think about shouldering the cost of converting those streetlights from single globe to double globe. My other recommendation, and this would take some brainstorming with the highway department, with Mike and the guys, and see what's out there is higher conspicuity paint that can be used for crosswalks and markings. Sorry, that's
What does that mean?
conspicuity. How well something shows up under difficult conditions.
more
how
expensive
conspicuous.
More conspicuous.
More
Yeah, but
expensive.
Easier to see.
We've talked about that. We've talked about it, and in the
Well,
long run, it's cheaper. And when they put new asphalt in, you mash it into the new asphalt.
Well, I'm not talking about the applications like we have over at the intersection on School Street. And I mean, that might be applicable here, but as far as just spray down materials, our materials here are legal, they're within regs and within specs, but you can go higher. If you want to shoulder the cost and perhaps a little bit difficult application, you can make those markings more conspicuous.
I will say, and I think when you all go home tonight, take a look, and I've said this when I sat on both seats here before, and I said it when we made the change. Just coming in here tonight, focusing on the lighting, and I've heard it from people in the square, business people, that they're not so fond of the white lighting. The high-pressure sodium with the amber makes it a lot easier to see. And you do this, just drive down and see where there's lighting, that's the high-pressure sodium, which is the amber orange-colored lighting, or yellowish-colored lighting. Basically, no shadows, you can see better in inclement weather, hence fog lights are usually in amber. Coming in here tonight, going down Atkinson Street, and coming into the square, I think you've got better visibility with that amber high-pressure sodium lighting. I know there's a big push to go green and go LED, and at the time I said, and I don't want to break your bulb, but you're talking the single globe, the double globe. It's also more of a factor, in my opinion, that the wattage, when you replaced a 70 watt high-pressure sodium with a 20 watt LED or whatever it was, you probably should have kept the 70 watt LED there, if you, the same amount of wattage, because it would have been brighter. Necessarily not needing the double globe. But I think if you look, especially in a foggy night like tonight, and a rainy night, a snowy night, it is more difficult to see with the bright white light as it would be to the high-pressure sodium. And that's my opinion, and I kind of favor the high-pressure sodium, even though it's not.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm just saying, just look around, when you go around, you see the people that have it.
I'm just leaning on the
I have a
double
question.
globe, single globe.
Sure.
Just because that was what I could see walking one area to the other.
But
made
yeah,
that much
it is a
difference.
difference when I drove into the square.
But the wattage is probably a big factor as well.
Well, the lights shine up. They don't shine down. Doesn't matter what bulb. Look at the picture. Look at the picture across the street of a light shining down. And what about the trees, will be my question. We have a tree in front of a lamppost in a crosswalk. Directly in front of this building, in front of the lamppost. Is that coming into this study? If you place a tree between the crosswalk and the light, it's essentially ineffective.
The main thrust to my investigation was the area where the incidents have happened, which so far.
Okay, but
downtown-
if we were to prevent the next one,
I'm all
if we
for
have a
prevention.
tree, I don't really understand why we have trees in the beautiful village. We live in Vermont,
And this time of the year, there's no leaves on the tree, so you can probably see a little better.
but okay, so 6 months of the year we have leaves on the
Yeah.
trees and you don't see it. You can't
Right.
see if the light's behind the tree. But these lights shine up. Like, what about a dome on top? Look at the difference in the little spotlight he has compared to this, whatever light bulb you guys talk about. It
Well,
doesn't
okay,
shine down.
You're begging the question, and I'll ask it. How do we arrive at our current streetlights? Was that aesthetic?
I don't know, but
Was that
we're here now.
cultural? Was,
Well, there was a
LED,
big...
change,
yeah.
switch to LED, it was a big thing.
well, I mean, the actual
Look
structure
at
of
this
the
tree.
streetlights. What Gaetano was talking
tree-
about is the old
the tree
style
blocks the
hooded
building, it
that
blocks the light.
focuses the light more down.
Yeah.
The one on the other side completely
Does not
blocks.
look at all pretty for the village.
I know the manager's had his hand.
Yeah, I just want to mention a couple of things. Insofar as trees, we talked internally about getting the tree committee with BIFTA together to talk about downtown and, what do we need to do? Do we need to yank the trees, replace the trees, prune the trees? But I think those are two groups that have an interest in seeing
Well,
something happen.
Not meaning to step on anybody's toes, I'll make this quick observation. The tree committee is about the trees, okay?
Well, I've heard some input.
And the safety and the health of the trees. I'm talking about the safety and the health of pedestrians.
I'm absolutely, and I haven't said anything that would run counter to that. But what I'm, these are people who are, actually goes to the lighting also, while there are competing interests in some of this. With lighting, the off-white lighting
Yeah.
may be great for some things, but I would talk to the shop owners, because the color rendition of that stuff is not good. So the products that people are trying to sell, they don't look right. And so there's other types of light. I mean, I think we all know a little bit, but I think we get a lot of heads together, we can figure this out. And
Okay.
lighting, I was part of the team that chose the lighting for downtown Brattleboro. There's all kinds of different ways to keep the lights coming down and, and not escaping.
I guess
out.
bottom line, what I'm saying is, I think it's immaterial how you do it, but you need to increase the lighting specifically on Rockingham Street,
Yep.
where we've had the incidents. And I will mention briefly,
It's a lot of areas. I just drove here in the dark, shiny
Sure.
rain, and the one by William Street, and
I was
Atkinson
about
is
to mention on
non-existent. You
Atkinson.
can't see the paint.
Yeah.
And the material they use, it looks the same as it did after 2 months of them putting in brand-new
We
paint.
specifically have a
It's not
danger
effective.
point near the junction of Atkinson and Butterfield.
A simple solution seems to be getting the lights here on
Somebody was
Westminster and Rockingham with something that shines it down. It's shining up.
But
Yeah,
in reference,
There's baffles baffles, you can put in there.
in reference to the trees, I've heard from some of the merchants, and
They don't like them.
it blocks their building, blocks their sign.
It's a beautiful village. We live in Vermont.
I want to...
Go down Atkinson Street if you want to see some trees.
And we've had pedestrians struck at Cumberland Farms, that intersection there. We've had pedestrians struck at Williams, we've had pedestrians struck at Butterfield, some of which, I think that one was a fatality also.
Actually, I've been hearing from a lot of the community on the Butterfield-Atkinson situation recently, not about specific incidents, but about close calls, which I guess have really escalated in the last 2 months.
You have
No,
a question there.
Yeah, I just want to make
Oh,
sure I
sorry.
give the board the opportunity to weigh in.
And you said you didn't want to, blame it on the pedestrians, but my
didn't say
close
that.
calls have
I
been
didn't say that.
entirely the fault of the pedestrian. People walking right out
Sure, but
But
between,
that's the law. For
No.
whatever reason, that's the law.
they can walk out between two parked cars right in front of my car?
Well, no.
Yeah.
That's
If it's
what
a
they do.
crosswalk there,
No.
they don't have to look. They just
I've
enter
seen
it out.
people walk parallel to a crosswalk.
Well, they have the right of way in a marked properly marked crosswalk.
This is not, they're not in a crosswalk.
I would agree
Dressed
with,
in black.
I would agree with Ann that I think about 80% of the close calls are directly the fault of the pedestrian. Unfortunately, we can't control the pedestrian.
Well, it's
Well,
not just
you
the
can make it-
pedestrian, it's the person that pulls up to these parallel parking spaces, and before they don't look to open the door, they just slant it out there, and you know, it's not very lane width wide there, but, all right, if we're all set with the board, I want to go to the audience. And Peter?
Just bring up a point of information when we talked about those LED lights. If you remember, you were on the board when we
Yes,
talked
it was.
about them.
Yeah.
The white lights were supposed to prevent crime, if you remember from our chief of police. So that's one of the reasons why they switched, and the LEDs went to there because to save energy and save money.
Right, I realize that. Well,
Are we gonna, you're not talking about going back the other way?
no, but what I'm saying, I advocated for the high-pressure sodium back then, I believe you check it. But as far as saving money, I don't believe, in my opinion, the only one that was saving or making any money was the power company. Because I believe the monthly rent on those was either the equivalent or went higher. I don't believe it was
You aren't gonna
anything.
win with the power company stuff, and you know that well.
No, I know that, but what
You
I'm.
save energy, you turn all your lights off, and they just
Right.
jack the rates up to keep their revenue where they need it.
Well,
Simple as that.
Just a recent increase, yeah.
You don't have to be a rocket science to figure that
I
out.
don't
Right.
think the color of the light is affecting anything.
But I think
We
you
need to
have the
shine
right
it
idea.
down.
So given our,
Relatively simple and beautiful if done right.
we're not going to change the lights,
Right.
period.
But they talk about it every time we bring this up.
I know,
Sodium-
so we're not going to change the lights. We need to, so our crosswalks need to be better marked.
They need to be, well, I think we need to emphasize
And the
better lighting
trees in the areas that are
crosswalks.
blocking a light need to be trimmed or cut. So period. We keep on talking about this same stuff. So
Well,
let's get this
And
done.
let's, I would strongly recommend, though, that we have the tree committee and BIFTA get together and talk about what to do in the square. I think it's particularly in the summertime or, spring, summer, even early fall, it looks even that much nicer with the trees. And there's something more than just the crosswalks in the downtown. The downtown's special, and I think the plantings help with that.
Right, but I don't
So I
think-
think that we shouldn't be rash about it, we shouldn't just say cut the trees down. I think we should.
I didn't say
have a
cut the trees
I
down.
didn't say that you did.
Trim
think
the
we
A
should-
lot of people,
We should,
Why are we
I'm
still
just trying
talking
to say,
about this?
there should be a deliberative process to figure out the best way to do it would be.
a lot
Well-
of people that work and live here don't like the trees. They're.
I work here and I
they're-
love the trees, so.
I don't live here.
I would beg.
We live and work here,
The big
and it
thing-
blocks your entire shop. There's a tree that's blocking the person's whole shop.
Well, I think we're missing the emphasis,
And it's safety.
the initiator on this was the way I took it, was pedestrian being hit in the crosswalk. And I think the emphasis has shifted to a lot of other related topics, but I think the main topic should be, again, high traffic areas like Rockingham Street, Westminster Street, School Street, where there's a lot of foot traffic, to eliminating your crosswalks better than what they are illuminated now. You know, I won't-
And again, increased light. Do it any way you like, any way you like. Increase light, increase the retroreflection from the pavement.
I'm going to go to the miss if you'd identify yourself. And,
Bonnie Anderson, I live right here in town.
hi, Bonnie.
Hi. So I have some suggestions and also some responses to some of the things. So I agree with shining the lights down. I think I think it'd be helpful to look at what other towns have done. I think, if I remember correctly, that Burlington has arched lights that still look nice aesthetically, but that shine down. I don't know, but I'm sure other towns will have some examples of how you could redo the lights so they shine down. I do agree with the lighting too, but now that the quality of the light you were talking about, Stefan, but I don't know how that would be remedied other than changing them all. But I think Tom's point of shining them down is really important. As far as trees go, I also really like the trees. I think it makes sense, like Shane said, to have the two committees work together.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you need to move some trees or something, but if you take all the trees away, sure, we have trees elsewhere, but villages,
Well,
trees. They're not-
I don't think, in Gaetano's defense, that he's saying that. If he is, correct me if I'm wrong, but.
No, I love trees.
There was-
It's a locust, it's
Yeah.
not a beautiful.
Right.
There was a lot of advocacy back in the late 90s, early 2000s about trees on Atkinson Street. And when you look at some of them, maybe it might be a case of a lot of them were planted, but some of them were planted under the power lines. And maybe, in my opinion, some of them were planted too close to the intersections, i.e. William Street for one of them.
Right,
So-
I think that they could work together and figure
Yeah.
that out. But,
And as far as the lighting fixtures, I'd be interested to compare what the power company charges you for a 25 watt or a 30 watt LED as to what a 70 watt high pressure sodium would be. I think it'd probably be cheaper for the high pressure sodium,
So
unless
if
they
I-
really want to push the LED.
if I could get, could I?
Sure.
My other, so initially, what I wanted to suggest is a couple of things. As far as crosswalks go, could there be some kind of extra marking to show that there's a crosswalk coming? Like, on the street, street marking that lets you know there's a crosswalk coming, maybe even some kind of sign, crosswalk sign. I don't really know, like what, again, it's good to see what other towns do, but maybe might even do a blinking light, not that I want to see, or anyone really wants to see blinking lights around, but something just to, to show extra signage. But the main thing that I actually wanted to bring up is very specifically Canal Street. This has to do more with speed, but it has a lot to do with potential accidents with pedestrians. And so Canal Street is 25. I just learned recently that you can't go any lower than 25 in Vermont
Yes, you
as far
can.
as speed limits.
You can, 15.
What's that?
Yeah,
15.
That's been
We
tried
were at 15 for a while.
in the square for a while, and then the outcry was to,
We've done it, but
Go
it's
back.
allowable.
you know,
But some gas street.
In a designated downtown, it's allowable.
It's, okay, so, well, that would be my recommendation then on Canal Street, because it is so narrow, and I actually live on that street, so I've witnessed a lot of cars. What they do is they want to cut off, they think they can get from the square to the bridge faster. So, by skirting around, because, there's no one down there, because it's one way, and so they just fly through there, and often, if they can, they fly right through the stop sign at the bridge, the East Street Bridge.
yeah, I've seen that.
So I talked to Chip a couple years ago about possibilities, and we kind of ruled out, or he ruled out, speed bump and various things. And even signage, because of the tight curve, he wasn't sure about that, but they left. So I still think a sign as large as can be, slow down, wheelchair, I think a wheelchair symbol should be on there, because Canal House is there, and there's always people coming in and out of the building in wheelchairs, right in the road. The wheelchairs are often right in the road, there's often ambulances down there, and people, I live in fear that I'm just gonna witness a horrible accident. And there's kids often running in the street. The cars are parked tightly. There is just, I really think the speed limit has to be lowered if possible. And some signage, maybe even slow written on the pavement as you're approaching.
Bonnie, have you spoken to the police department?
Actually, I did mention it to Thaddeus. I haven't directly gone to the police department to.
Well, I guess one thing that I should point out, and I agree with everything you're saying, is that it sounds to me like about 80% of the difficulty is going to have to do with enforcement, and that's a village matter. Not that we're unwilling to hear it, certainly, but
I mean, they go 40 miles an hour right down here, too. I understand your concern, but enforcement's not us. Changing speed limit or markings would be our avenue. No.
That's what.
Trustees, too.
That's what I'm hoping you would be willing to do.
I guess that's a trustees matter, too.
I'm just hoping it would be a deterrent for people, maybe just wake people up, show a picture of a wheelchair, slow down, with a wheelchair symbol, and maybe, just maybe, you might get a percentage of people actually seeing it and slowing down.
Is there any other public input on this topic before I move the agenda along? Okay, not hearing any. Thank you,
Well, I have
Bonnie,
one
for your
more
comments.
comment. if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, you're a board member, I'm gonna.
Just with the tree statement, I've been doing some research, and across the nation here in cities, villages, and towns, they're starting to do that. New York City is removing trees for safety reasons, and they have no trees other than those trees, so it's not, I'm not coming up with this idea. It's a safety thing, that's why. It's my only concern, with a tree directly in front of a light that we're talking about getting more powerful bulbs for.
Okay, moving the agenda along, we're gonna go to the next item, which is the budget. And item number 4 is gonna be review of fiscal year 2017 year-to-date status.
Isn't
Mr.
it 2018?
Pardon me?
Isn't this current year 2018?
Yeah, it is.
Well,
What? So it says 2017.
that's what it says, 2017.
Also, you've got 2 Bs there, just saying.
Yes, I see that.
2 Bs?
And 2 B, notice it's ABB?
Oh, 2 Bs, 2 B.
2 Bs, 2 B or not 2 B.
Okay, well, we'll start off. Is there any comment from the manager on?
Yeah, at this time, we are just under 41% of the budget. And frankly, I don't see anything of particular note. We do have a little overage on recycling, but that's because of the project for which we received $48,000 for. So that was in anticipation of that extra money, so it nets that out. But really, in each of the departments, we're really pretty well in good shape. There are some that show over that percentage, but those are half-year things where, we have to pay 2 payments a year, and that first one is already done. And there's a few other things like that where, such as with social service agencies, we pay it all up front. So really, in the budget, we're in good shape.
Any questions or comments from the board in reference to that? Okay, any comment from the public? All right, we're going to move down to presentation of the Rockingham Library budget. Thank you for your patience. Sure, pull up a chair if you'd like.
I'm Mary Van Horsveld. I work at the library. Selena apologizes profusely, but she is out sick with the flu. She tried to come in today and she could not make it. She had to go back home. So I'm going to present to you tonight, and I hope I can answer all of your questions. I do work with her extensively on all financial matters, and so I help prepare the budget, so I should be able to take care of this. I want to read a brief statement, and then I can take your questions. The Library Board of Trustees has approved an FY19 proposed budget in the amount of $412,352, of which $357,300 is to be raised by taxes. This is an increase in the tax amount of $10,230, or 2.95%. And I want everyone to remember that last year we level funded the tax portion of our budget, even though we did have increased expenses. And we can't level fund again because we have more increased expenses, and we still are not asking for the tax amount to cover all that increase. We plan to increase all of our fundraising efforts in the coming year, and increases to the budget were largely due to items outside our control, including changes to the benefits package offered to full-time employees. That's something that the board voted on, that your board voted on, that we did not. The library continues to be very busy, providing not only traditional services, but also offering access to technology, including public computers, Wi-Fi signal available to everyone who comes near to the building, and one-on-one tech support. Our youth librarian is engaged in many community projects serving families and children, including the recent Promise Community Grant opportunity, as well as the statewide early literacy program. We're asking the Select Board to approve the inclusion of the article for our budget on the warning for the town meeting. And I thought rather than go over lines myself, I would just take your questions. That would be agreeable to everybody.
Any questions for Mary from the board or the manager in reference to this, the budget?
Not yet.
Not yet. Just a few moments.
It doesn't really matter what the budget is, because at town meeting, there's such an emotional plea. And I understand the good work that the library does, so I have no issue with it.
Any comment from the public on the library budget?
I just want to mention that I did speak to Selena at one point. There are a lot of services that the town general fund provides to the library that are uncompensated, particularly from our finance department. And I just wanted at some point talk to the board further about that, and that, you know, a lot of administrative work is done at town hall, and you know, while for the most part it is the same taxpayers taking care of it, in some ways we may want to just have a better idea of what it really costs to run different departments in the library as well. And I don't mean any ill will in any way. I'm just thinking that we may want to better allocate the way money is actually flowing.
I've heard of that before.
If something like that were to happen, however, and we have a budget, and there was some change that affected our budget, but we didn't know about it, you know, that would be a little bit awkward. So, something to consider,
Right,
considering these things, this would maybe be a long-term discussion. But.
Well, I wanted to raise it with the board because we're heading into our budget, and you want to finish that up, and just something I wanted to raise, and ultimately it would be no difference to the taxpayers. If it's something here, it would just go between the two funds.
I believe previous administrators have raised it also, so.
Okay.
Valid point. Okay, so not hearing any questions or concerns at this time for the library budget and for Mary. I think we're all set.
We'll get them at town meeting, though.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mary. Okay, moving down to the 2019 budget review. And of course, we just added number 5. And
Yeah, I handed out budget reports, and I do again wish to apologize for not getting it to you sooner. It's just been a lot of moving parts in the town hall, and it's been difficult to get to it. And we also have our finance consultant, you know, only two days a week. And that person's covering a full-time position in 2 days, so it's difficult. And I just want to let you know that. And but if you'd like, I'll guide you through the budget that I handed out tonight. The only real changes you'll see are noted by in handwriting on the document that you have. Obviously, the most important is the amount to be raised by taxes. Right now, I show an increase of $164,190 at 7.25%, and you know, that flows from some reduced revenues elsewhere, but also increases in funds due to different projects, and we'll go over those with the board. Then the next change anywhere would be not until under general fund you get to, if you actually look at page 9, one of the things I wanted to note is that you recall in it was early August, the board voted to encumber or carry over some funds from one year to the next. So there were monies in FY17 that were carried over to FY18. So anywhere where those appear in the budget, I'm just writing that in. So on page 9, I'm so sorry, you'll see that town hall repairs, we were able to, in addition to the $45,000 in the existing budget of this year, add an additional $5,700. That's just for your information. On page 10, you'll see that...
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
So, do we have an idea what the elevator repair is going to cost?
We're applying for a grant now?
Yeah. So it says like we have money set aside, but we have no clue what it's going to be.
After the next agenda item, we'll have this discussion on that. We're looking at roughly $112,000 for a full redo of the elevator, 50,000 of which would be coming from a grant.
So when's this budget going to be put to bed? What's the last day? Because we still have no idea what we're looking at here.
Yep. Well, put it this way, the insurances just came in the past 3 days, or late last week. We still have open enrollment for health care and for dental care. Those are due on the 15th, Curry, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not dental, just health.
Just health, is due on the 15th. And so people need to choose which health care plan they're going to be in, or if they're going to take an incentive. And that drives a lot of the budget, and so that, we have to wait. We just don't have a choice. We've made assumptions based upon what people have done in the past year, but we don't really know. And, we're still working on some of this. I had expected that we were going to get some money for 10 Church Place, and then just found out that we didn't, so we had to scramble to adjust the budget for that. And so there's a lot of things that are, that aren't there. Last year, we didn't find out about the amount to be set aside for the old pension until February. So it was never budgeted. And so we budgeted, excuse me, a little over $25,000, and we're about to get hit with a bill for $39,000. So, I'm still working on that. Normally it comes out in February. I'm trying to get a weather report from the, from the firm that does this, and they're trying to get it in the next 2 weeks. It's just not everything comes as easy as we'd like it to come.
And grants for the stormwater runoff, do we have any idea about those? That's going to be that's $500,000 if we don't get any grants.
Well, we don't get the grant, we don't do it. I mean, that's the
That's
Vector.
mandated by the state, we have to do the stormwater runoff.
It's the Vector truck that we have.
No, not the Vector truck.
I'm talking about the Vector truck. It's a 320, that's built into this. We don't
No,
have.
I know that, but like the stormwater runoff, the new rules coming from the state. Susan mentioned, because she talked to Everett, who said that could cost us, we're on the hook for up to $500,000.
Yep.
But there are grants for that.
Yes, Everett is being paid right now with one of those grants to do an evaluation of all of our roads. He started off with the paved roads; those are in process right now, and
Okay.
actually he's done that analysis. And where the next stage is the unpaved roads. So that is in process, but we have to have a plan put together to, you have to roll it out. I don't think much of it doesn't come into effect for 2038 is the final year, and so there's time to do this.
No, it's competitive, she said.
Oh, yes, it is competitive, but we were lucky enough to get an initial grant, the analysis part of it, which is going to help us to, work on our budget. We'll have a better idea of what our needs are going to be for paving. And when, if the board decides to go forward with the paving plan that we have in here, which is, my plan is at $25,000 every year to get it where we need to be, because it gets more expensive every year to pave. That will help, justify that to the voters, because it's something that needs to be done if you want to have roads that are able to be driven on.
I think it's going to be a sticker shock for the voters with the education tax of possibly 9 cents.
Every time you put off paving the
Griswold
road,
Drive, that's almost $2 million.
that's going to have to be a bond.
I'm not sure the village can even afford to do that, so it goes on and on.
Yeah,
The
well-
rec department wants money, recycling wants money, everybody wants money. They want an increase, and
Well, I
it's
don't
all
think-
justifiable. So.
Yeah, I mean, with roads, it only gets more expensive every year you put it off. That's a simple one.
I know.
But anyway, moving on.
Okay.
So I
Why
just,
did we put off this paving because it was going to be less expensive?
I'm sorry?
We put off this paving because it was going to be less expensive?
We put off this paving because
The downtown.
we had,
Fire
we
sprinkler.
had the sprinkler issues going on, and
The mix.
Oh, I thought we thought we could get a better price.
that also, but also the mix that was the state changed the mix that was available, and eventually it wasn't going to be available.
And I think it was reported last we knew that the company that was here was going to hold that price in the spring.
Yeah, that's what they said.
But we have to go out to bid for it again as soon as possible. Like this spring, tomorrow, maybe, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because last time we only had one bid for the downtown, and that's before we even knew about those sprinkler systems going in.
Right, we didn't get the funding of it, we didn't get the funding agreement from the state until July. Late July, in fact.
Right.
And so we ran out of time. Normally you would, as you say, put it out to bid in, early spring, late winter. And that's what our plan to do is for this year.
Okay.
Moving on.
I mean, I get mixed reports, if the sprinklers had something to do with it, or we didn't get the funding in time.
It's many things. It's
Yeah, a
not
lot
just
was
one.
with the mix,
Yeah,
where the state wasn't, the grant, they weren't going to provide the money because
you
the
couldn't even
mix-
get the mix
Right.
at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
But we couldn't go out to bid until we had the state agreement that they were going to give us $175,000.
Okay,
On
moving
page
along.
10, you'll see that at the last meeting, we talked about a tax sale, acquired property, and it was a decision to add 20,000 into that. So anywhere there's a change, you'll see either a plus or a minus sign written in. Moving on, if you go to page 12, that's the employee's pension that I talked about. You'll see in FY17, they budgeted $25,500. Came in at almost $35,000. And then in FY18, budgeted $25,500. And then it wasn't until February that we found out that the amount was going to be higher. It's going to be $39,000. In speaking to them, this guy today, he said because our portfolio that underlies it apparently looks pretty good, he said probably 40,000 would do it. I'm going to be sending him some further information so he can give us a better number than that. He said that's a good number to work with right now. That's a fellow we've been working with for probably 20 years. I'm sorry about all this coughing. Moving on, if you go to page 14, the top of the page, Southeast Vermont Transit did come in with a request for funding, level funding. We did get information on workers' comp and other insurances. Workers' comp is up some, no surprise. General liability is down quite a bit, and I need to double check on that. It's 7,500, but that's the calculation that was given to me by our NIMRIC consultant. Buildings and contents is up a bit to 50,000, and then public officials liability also up some. But on balance, it's it's an extra $1,000. And given the level of assurance that we have to carry, it's not a whole lot. Moving on. If you go to page 17 of 33, you'll see that we have, midway down the page, we have Church Place demolition, principal and interest. I'm just, I'm going to try to find out on Friday, as I mentioned earlier, that from Susan McMahon, whether or not we'd be able to borrow that money to get that done. I'm assuming $120,000 to do it, 3-year note. That's just a placeholder at this point. But,
And she didn't say why we didn't get that?
there's a Brownfields conference down in Pittsburgh they're all at right now. So, I did ask, and she said she'd give me a call on Friday.
We still can't find anybody to get in there and physically take a look to make that determination that it's not all asbestos. I mean, this seems to be the hangup.
Yeah, it's unsafe to go in. I mean, we cut them out, wouldn't go in.
Yeah, but I think we need to maybe look at, see if there's somebody, some other firm or.
Yeah, there is a firm that's working, it's called Lee, I think, and they're working on the Robertson Paper Mill project.
Yeah.
And we can maybe get them in.
I'd like to encourage that.
Robertson Paper Mill got money,
I
and
mean,
the TLR got some money.
a lot of these buildings, I'm sure they go in, are buildings that may have questionable structure. I mean,
Well,
it's-
Robertson Paper Mill's not going to potentially fall down around you.
Right,
That's-
yeah, well,
you know, but I can try to get them in.
I think it would behoove the board. We could-
Well, safety issues, thinking about priorities, I think 10 Church Place is more of a priority if you're looking at it than the Robertson Paper Mill.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at, I mean, Robertson Paper Mill
I think
is.
it's just
the
mentioned-
No, I know,
efficiency.
but if you're talking about brownfield grants and stuff, I don't understand
I would
why we
think
didn't
that's
get
why
that.
I asked for a copy of all the ones that got approved, because this is a public health issue right next door to a school. It's imminent health issue, and
I think
we got to get it done.
criteria with the Robertson paper may have the large emphasis from the BFADC.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just, this is more,
Right,
to me,
yeah.
more important if you're,
I agree.
But I think if the board would concur, I'll take a look at that other,
I think the more
that other option.
proactive we can be in any way on Church Place is to the better.
Yeah.
well, maybe just wait until the winter. Get a good snowfall.
Well, we have a next door neighbor who's very upset with, the look of it, and it's a rental space, and no one's willing to rent the building. The house right next to the right of it. They can't get anybody in there because who wants to live next to that?
Well, the building in back of it is owned by the same woman who owned 10 Church Place.
It's owned by the town at this time.
I can understand.
Yeah, but there's something there.
10 and a half, I think.
10 and a half out back is owned by the town.
I can understand somebody not wanting to look at it, but I think it's from a fiduciary responsibility of this board. 38 Green Street did happen overnight. 10 Church Place isn't going to happen probably overnight. But I think it'd be, from a fiduciary standpoint, that this board take or give some direction to take the initiative to make it competitive to, if there's that opportunity. I find it hard to believe that because one won't go in, okay, that's them. But there must be other companies out there that go into buildings that, are questionable integrity, and because that's what they do.
That's what Catamount does too. But anyway, I'll follow up on that. I'll see if I can grab someone else to do it. I mean, there are other companies that could. They're the local who, is familiar with the location.
Looking at demolition during the winter times of the year, there's a lot of companies that are hungry for work. That may help us with the price also.
Well, I'm wondering about dust control, because if it's too cold, everything's going to freeze up.
Well, I don't think we'd have to worry about it then, too much, dust control.
Well, unless it's raining, you got to worry about dust control, even if it's cold. Anyway, that's just a practical thought. But yes, I will follow up on that. It's one of my follow-ups for the meeting. But anyway, I put placeholders in there for principal and interest on a $120,000 loan. And that's something that we can potentially get through the state, or there are other programs throughout the state for this hazardous cleanup, and Susan and I will talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get them, that's wonderful, but I think we need to try to get the biggest bang for our buck.
Absolutely.
Basically, I'm looking at, plan for the worst, but hope for the best.
That's the plan for the worst, here's the hope for the best, so we're good. Okay, that's it for the town general fund. So it does show an increase of from $2,720,000 to $2,880,000 roughly. So that's a jump, but of course, the most important piece is the amount to be raised by taxes.
Right.
And again, that, I mentioned that earlier, what that number was. Moving on then is, I'm sorry. Next section is parks, cemeteries and parks. You remember there was no change there. It's still zero year to year. And if we go on to the next section is highway fund. The amount to be raised by taxes there goes from $2.47 million to $2.7 million. It's a change of $227,051 and 9.1%. Then you remember we have some pretty ambitious projects in here that I sense that the board may want to cut, but that's the number we're starting from. Later on down that page, you'll recall that I made a rather remarkable mistake at the last meeting where I included some money from the previous year grant, the paving grant, which we did not get, so I reduced that. If you go to the next page, page 22 of 33, we still have some to be determined items: health insurance, dental insurance, insurance incentive. Next page is 23. We have pavement maintenance, and I show there the carryover from last year of $12,350. So that's in addition to the $252 that we have. So we've got a lot of money this year for a good amount for paving. And we go to the next page, and again, I show all particular the sidewalks, some significant amount we have for carryover there. 18,800 for sidewalks, 9,500 for sidewalk paving in Saxon's River, and 50,000 in carryover for the retaining wall project that we did not do, but we raised $50,000 for, and that can be used for sidewalks also. Really, in sidewalks, we've got a healthy amount of money that we can deal with this year.
It's healthy.
It's a very healthy amount of money, and which also gives an opportunity for the town to make some changes to that because of that carryover amount. As you recall, actually going back to the previous page for a second, with paving, my recommendation is to increase that by it was $50,000 per year that I wanted to recommend we increase that. And then with sidewalks, to increase that by $10,000 each year. If you go to page 25, you'll see that our insurance numbers came in the other day, and so workers' comp actually goes down, as does general liability. However, building and contents and vehicle insurance both went up. All in all, though, it's a decrease in insurance. Actually by almost $8,000 or so. That's it for highways. Next would be the equipment fund. I did put in here on the first page where it says income. I included in there it says V-Trans mitigation grant. That's the Vector truck. So we show the grant portion of that is $260,000. And then later on, you'll see that there's, and actually, let me take a step back, I apologize. The top line there, I forgot to put a mark on that. The amount, the transfer from the highway fund goes from $275 to $340. So the highway fund would be paying not only its regular amount, but we would add $65,000 for the Vector truck. So the highway department, that's one of the reasons why it's elevated, is for that Vector truck, which would, ends up being, the money for that is raised in highway and transferred over to equipment.
You know if Mike Hines looked into getting a strap for the sidewalk plow? Because the guy sits on it, and people are voicing concerns when they see it, like he could fall off. I know he wears a helmet, which, seems okay, but he said he would look into getting a safety device to keep the guy inside it so he wouldn't fall out.
Well, if you let your hands off, it stops. I'd be afraid if someone's tethered to it, I'd be afraid of getting...
Not tethered, a strap that goes around it.
To keep them in place.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's done that. I could look into it.
Because, it seems like some of the stuff, too, you can avoid, future lawsuits or injuries or workman's comp claims just by using safety,
Yeah, that's, I required them to wear a helmet right off the bat, and, but that's a good idea. but it has worked quite well. I'll ask Mike that. So anyway, we get money in from the highway fund to cover that $65,000 for the town's portion of the Vector truck. And then later on, just down below that, you'll see there's a new budget line for $260,000. That's money coming in from the state. And that 260 plus these 65 gives you the 325 total amount, the cost of the unit.
What does that do again?
The Vector truck it's used for cleaning
the
storm
culverts,
drains.
You have the new unfunded mandate from the state. You clean out all the culverts, then you put the stones back in.
Oh, storm
Yeah,
drains.
well, it's for storm drains, it's for
Right.
culverts, you can use it for a whole bunch of stuff. You can dig holes with the thing. We could potentially, rent it to the wastewater treatment facility. There's just different things we could do to it, with it, excuse me. It's a very, I was just actually talking to my counterpart who's up in Woodstock, and they have a version that actually has street sweeping capabilities with it as well. So I'm going to look at that one, see if it's worthwhile for us. Moving down, we have under capital outlay for FY19, we're looking to replace a 10-wheeler. After trade, the net price is roughly, we figure it'd be $165,000. So that budget line is 160. That's 165,000 plus money, the money for the Vector truck. So that's the expense related to it. We showed you the revenues. That's where the expense is shown. Other than that, we have, the only other change to equipment fund is on page 30, where we're including the principal and interest on a 2018 six-wheeler, which we're in the process of ordering up. And those are approximate numbers. Similar to the previous purchase, would be $15,000 the first year, followed by $50,000 the subsequent years. And that's it for equipment fund.
Is that six-wheeler going to be replacing anything?
Yeah, I didn't put it in there, which one it's replacing.
Yeah. I remember talking about the 10-wheeler, but I didn't recall too much discussion on that
Well, that six-wheeler, that was from last year.
from last year. Okay.
That was approved last year.
Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
we didn't get to it over the summer.
Okay.
So, unfortunately. So normally, if we had gotten to it, we would have had the, the note already.
Right, that very well, I think might have replaced it we just sold. Maybe, I know that was in town, or, I know it's, it rings a bell
Yeah.
anyways.
So that's it for equipment. Last one is theater fund, and year to year, there's no change, but I recall that the board was not necessarily interested in the projector upgrade. That was $26,000. Carrie, is that right? Yeah.
Did we say that?
Yeah, he was hoping to have, get that done to go to 4D. That was,
Did we say we weren't interested in that?
I didn't add it in. I'm happy to put it in there if the board wants to pull it, but right now it's very similar year over year, the whole budget.
Wish to factor that in, and you can always
Yeah, and then we
pull it
can
if
always
had
cut
to.
it out. So
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't remember doing that.
I've kind of run out of time as well, but
Did we do that? We didn't do that. So we'd like to make those decisions. So if you can put that back in there.
I think we did a lot of nodding.
Yeah.
Well, and we asked, a lot of things from Rick, because I think some of these departments could generate more revenue, like theater. I have a bunch of things we asked him to do, like credit cards. I didn't know if he did that, or he looked.
I don't believe he's gotten to that yet, but it's really something we were we'd like to look at town-wide, not just in one single department. And,
Yeah, but it has to start somewhere, so.
well, if you're going to gear up for it and deal with the finance office aspects of it, my feeling is that you need to do it all, get it all, and it's not something you can ramp up on, you just get it done for everybody.
So what else would people do with that? Pay taxes or water
Yeah,
bills?
taxes, water bill, recycling center.
And
So I think, you'd make money.
Any
People would
plan-
You can
actually-
get
Yeah.
one account and add things to it, right? I mean, why couldn't you do that?
We just have not,
Do that.
we're looking at bringing a finance director on in short order, and that'll be something that person can do, but we haven't been able to get to that. We have only 2 people in the finance department right now.
So when is that happening?
Finance director?
Yeah.
I made an offer. The person's supposed to get back to me today.
Did he?
I haven't checked my email or my phone.
Okay, because we got an email, I think, a week ago, and he said a couple days, so I think we're all just really anxious to get moving, so.
Join the crowd. I am very, as well.
No,
I'd like to get that done.
While on this theater aspect of it, we talked about some of the, I don't know, exclusive items or other items like during the Star Wars thing. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
He is doing that.
Oh, he is doing that, okay.
Yeah.
And how about your juices and other
Juices?
topics, or other than the beverages?
Other than soda.
No, we haven't done liquids. We had like protein bars and things like that.
Right,
They're
yeah.
basically a bust. Rick's buying them while he's there, but not many people, we have them prominently displayed, but, adults aren't. It was really geared to have something for adults to snack on, and it hasn't caught on. But
Okay.
we'll try it for a little while longer. Sometimes it just takes
Yeah.
a little something. We could have a giveaway or something like that.
I'm just curious. Okay, so does that pretty much round up?
Yeah, that's where we are, and, in the general fund standpoint, I mentioned to you both, and the 2 funds that generate tax impact is, of course, highway and general fund, and they're both up. Again, general fund up 7.25%. An amount to be raised by taxes, and then 9% for highway. But again, we've got, several things to talk about. Do we want to be bumping, increasing 50,000 a year for paving or not? The Vector truck's going to pay for itself in 2 years, 3 years.
Well, there's a lot of things that people were talking about, but we also have to be mindful of what Ann's comment earlier about that school tax. And,
No question about it. And
if you're-
what Deb said as well.
If you're hearing that echo out there, when I went out this weekend for breakfast, I'm hearing, taxes are high.
They have no idea what they're looking at. We
Yeah.
have the 9 cents.
Right.
We do Griswold Drive.
Yeah.
How many cents is that?
Yeah.
So we're probably looking 20 cents.
Well, someday Griswold Drive has to be done. And again, it never gets cheaper, so it's a policy decision.
Gaetano?
So as far as timing, how many more of these reports will we receive? And have this discussion again, like I was just going through the 21st reports, and now we get one right before the meeting and have to make all these decisions. And I mean, we've gone up in every category since 2 weeks ago. So should we expect another one in 2 weeks with more?
Potentially, it depends on what happens with the open enrollment for health insurance.
So there's
Like that
still,
before.
the 7% is probably not accurate.
It could, if a lot of people take the incentive, the numbers will go down. I mean, it's,
So we're still we're gonna do this again with probably more additions, and then maybe start from there, potentially.
whatever the board wants to do. I mean, I'm putting together.
We just got the report. We go through it quickly. We don't understand most of it. When you spend some time on the one that I've had, we've gone up 70,000, 56,000. It's hard to understand exactly where we're starting.
But, you know, you mentioned what percentage are we through the year?
41.
41%. You said we're in good shape. And I keep on flashing back to that March 2016 meeting with the village trustees. That same question was asked, and they were in good shape. Now they're not in good shape. They're up the creek. So, and that can go from in good shape with all these things that are mandated alone. We could go from good shape to not in good shape at all, pretty quick.
To a tax rate that shocks the hell out of people.
I just feel like we
The
need
existing
something to
year-to-date,
work
though, is
with.
fine.
Need something to work with. It changes. It's hard to
Yeah,
understand where
and
to
again,
start.
at the onset, I apologize for getting it done so late, but it's just been so many different things going on that it's just really difficult to get to it. And again, with finance, we have our assistant from Nimerick here 2 days a week, and she's covering someone who used to work 40 hours a week.
And similar to Ann's question, like was that an email where we said we'd have an announcement in a couple days, or you
Yeah, it was
sent
an
your
email.
counter? Or was that at a trustees meeting?
No, it was an email.
So,
Yeah, I expected a response
We
on
don't
Friday,
have-
and it's, but there are things that come up in people's lives that
they haven't,
have come up, and
do we have an
it's not
alternate?
unreasonable to allow for someone to spend a couple of extra days on a decision of this nature.
It's essentially time management, like it's a pretty, we've heard this, that we're lacking staff, and that's relating to what's happening, and we're trying to hire someone who doesn't seem to,
Not the job.
can't return the email. Do we have the next person?
I'm not sure what email you're even talking about when you say that.
The
Email
email.
that announced a week ago that you would have an answer, a counter,
I was hoping to have something on Friday, yeah.
and this person's not responding. Do we have another?
I never said that the person wasn't responding.
Person hasn't responded.
They have responded.
Oh.
I'm just telling you that certain things come up in people's lives that we can't always talk about that are very reasonably accommodated from time to time to allow for a few days for someone. It just,
So that pretty
life
much,
happens with people, so.
that pretty much wrap up where we're at on the budget. If we can, we'd like to move to item 5, where we could talk about the elevator here.
And I would like to I will promise to you that I will get to you the information much sooner, but
I'm just getting back to the theater. We had several recommendations of how he could raise more money there, and I don't know who's overseeing that, or if you ask him if he's thought of that, or if he's even planning on doing that. Yeah, that's kind of like the library. We put in a lot of stuff there. A few years ago, we weren't even, like having the theater pay for the fuel in the town building or the air conditioning. So I can see where things need to be, put to the right.
You want to go over those? There probably was about a dozen of them, wasn't there?
Well, yeah.
Several of them.
There was a 50-cent increase, and then I'm not sure if we decided to do that or not, because we
I think
forget.
that's where you wouldn't make much money, because you have to give that 30% of,
Okay.
70% to the
Oh,
I just need
filmmaker.
my question answered.
Concessions, you could make money. If you
Yeah.
raise the triple up to $4,
Yeah.
people are still gonna buy it. That's where they made all their money.
Right, so are we
$5
doing
already.
that? So the
Triple up?
It's 5.
Okay,
Five.
$6. It's
Yeah.
it's a bargain.
So the 50-cent
No one's gonna not
increase
get it.
on the triple up, the credit cards, which I think we need to go ahead, start it. More concessions or different concessions. He said he was going to do more ads. Is
How
he
much
doing
of the theater revenue was from concessions?
150 grand.
It's
It was
a lot.
Pretty healthy.
a lot? I think people will be, and grants.
It's a treat. It's a very affordable treat.
Yeah, unless you're going to smuggle in the pizza
If you need
during the
to-
winter time of the year with a heavy cold, I mean, they're going to buy something to eat, a snack.
Make some more money. That's a good place to start.
And now we're starting to get more people interested in using the theater. Susan McMahon is, and we talked about having the plaques on the seats. That's $100 a pop.
And making sure that concessions are available at all the events. When
Right,
there's a
'cause
couple
that
they
happened
weren't.
twice.
If that's where you're making your money.
Has anybody thought of doing an end run on the credit card situation by simply putting an ATM in the lobby?
We have an ATM next door.
But I mean,
Yeah.
right in the same room, where you could just turn around and walk over and use your card and draw
Today's
cash.
day and age, people kind of want to use their credit card.
I don't
I know.
Get on that.
But there's a
Recycling.
cost to using credit
Well-
cards that goes to the theater.
We could build that fee in. I mean, there's places that do that when you buy stuff, they tell you.
EMV does.
3% fee on top of that. Exactly.
But does that increase our pass back to the distributor?
Well, no, the concessions aspect of it.
Don't we also pass back part of that profit? I think that's what Rick told us.
I just think these things need to be looked into to raise more money. And, you know, the theater's a great place, people use it. So
Right.
we need to look into that instead of like, every year, it runs a deficit. And it's probably always going to run a deficit. But we don't need to have a big of a deficit.
Right. I agree. I think we have to implement and try something else there.
Well, we are about to sell ancillary items for the Star Wars movie, so he's,
Right, but I mean,
He's
there's a
doing
lot
things
of
like that.
movies in between there where we're talked about the increase in concessions pricing, which I don't think is gonna hurt.
right. And we did do concessions at an event that someone else had here a week or so ago. It was a bust. We did very little in the way of concessions at it.
One of them gave free food away, so
Right.
that didn't help.
We were not aware necessarily that was going to be happening.
Maybe we should have should have probably been a little tighter control on that. You know, I mean,
Yeah, I got an email regarding all that stuff too, so that needs to be looked into. I don't know, she said she was gonna come in and talk to you, Susan McNeil,
Mhm.
did she?
She sent me an email about it, and I haven't gotten back to her yet.
Okay, because that needs to be looked at, she was very unhappy. Okay.
any other concerns on this topic? If not, we'll go ahead and finally get to the elevator. Okay, we're gonna move along to the elevator.
Yeah, thank you for indulging me in that.
Sure.
I handed out information. We are applying to the USDA Rural Development for a community facility program loan, and we are eligible up to $50,000. And I have brought on actually Robin Sweetapple to help me put this application together, and so all we need to do is two things: is to have the board authorize Stefan to execute the certification. It says, "I certify I've reviewed the above information," and that you're authorized, to sign. I'm also would be authorized to sign any application material necessary to get the project done. So, in other words, once if we're lucky enough to get the grant, to execute the grant agreement and all that sort of thing.
So
We're
Carrie
looking at
has
a
that.
cost of it's a $50,000 grant, total project cost of $112,000.
Do you have all the information, Carrie? Or
We have
instead of
something
going
you've
back
got.
and making that motion with all these bits and pieces, so
I would just,
move that
I would authorize the.
and authorize
vote-
the chair to sign it.
Authorize the chair to execute
Vice chair, right?
a certification of the application.
Well, do you want me signing that, or do you want Sue signing that?
Well, I think you should sign it because it's due this week.
Your name's already on
It's
it.
got to be in by Friday.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I just wanted
Well, was he the
to-
chair, if he's here?
No, he's the
The
vice
acting
chair.
Still the vice chair,
He's the
okay.
vice chair, he's elected vice chair.
Okay.
And he's therefore the acting chair in the absence of the
Acting chair.
Okay.
You're a piece of furniture.
Well, we'll do what we
But
have
again,
to do.
a motion to authorize the acting chair to certify as necessary, and for the manager to execute any documents necessary to fulfill the grant application and grant authorities.
We'll
So
entertain a
moved.
motion, okay. Motion has been made by. Seconded by Gaetano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Okay, those opposed? I'll vote aye also.
the money being used on this, the balance of which is from that, the bond that was passed a couple of years, March
Right.
2016, to deal with the rec center and ADA issues here at the town hall. And this is the biggest ADA issue we have.
And would you like me to date it also?
Yep.
Pass that down to Shane, sign, and we'll get it back to Carrie.
No, he's got other stuff he's got
He
to do,
does.
so just give it to me, he'll sign it tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, moving down to, if we're all set there. And you're all set on any topics with that, all right? Yep.
Good.
Review overtime and comp time reports, which are in your packet. I realized also from the, having been at the trustees meeting and going back over the minutes, there was some conversation on the comp I mentioned, so. And then there was some discussion possibly, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe discussion of the joint meeting? Okay.
In January,
In January, yeah.
not the one coming up.
Yeah, so just a heads up on that. Going over those comp time reports, is there any questions or comments for administration or staff? Okay, not hearing any. Let's go down to review the task list, which is, well, actually it's first meeting of the month, but it's in there, so.
Yeah. I really like this new format. Very much.
And no concerns there, we're all set? Okay. Moving along, we're gonna review the agenda items for the next meeting, December 19th. Do we have any? And Carrie, what do we have? Budget. Any additions at this time from any of the select board members?
I'd like to have an idea with what we're faced with. You know, we have it
Tax
all in
rate?
here,
Yeah,
so. And I'd like,
Well, it's changed completely, whatever's in there.
I know, but there was one thing that we didn't take out, which was taken out for us. I think we need to make that decision.
It was just never put in, I think.
Yeah, whatever, but you know, we just need to have a handle on things. If people ask us, what's going on? Did you get a new projector? It's like, no.
right.
It's not in here. So, I mean, would that make money for the theater by having a new projector? Can it pay for itself?
No. I mean,
Do we
raise the
lose
prices
money?
for movies that are showing, using that, you know, the enhanced elements of that, you know, we could.
But they didn't, my
It's
understanding.
becoming the standard, though.
Yeah, it's becoming the standard. Maybe we should be ahead of the curve, so we're prepared.
Well, we could talk about it, right?
But I mean, yeah, I'd say have it in there, and that way, if you want to.
The last time we bought a projector, it was actually a special article on the warning.
Really?
Yeah.
So it came up separately at town meeting.
And something happened. We didn't use,
They talked about a 3D one at
Right.
that time.
Oh, right, right.
We ended up not getting that.
so I think people should make decisions about what they
Screen and all
want.
that stuff.
Okay, so Carrie's raised, that's a legitimate concern. Is that,
A possibility, you could just put it on as a special article.
Maybe even Griswold Drive.
That would be a bond.
That's a
It's a
bond.
whole different ballgame.
I know, but people really need to make that decision if
Which
they
it
want
could
that.
be voted on at town meeting, but you don't have a lot of time right now either.
No.
To get all the public hearings and that stuff done.
I know people really want this, who live there,
Yep.
so.
so
But it would have to include the village also for the sewer elements of the project.
So,
It could be done at village meeting in May.
Right.
so they have indicated that they can't really do this, so,
We can't do what?
the village. So at least one village trustee was here.
What do you mean? That hasn't even been brought up.
Hasn't been discussed.
So can you afford it? I think your share is about
I'm
500,000.
there's,
You got one right there.
there's the topic of the Public Works Director position also.
It looks like that one's not going to make it. But I don't know.
I want to
of 5.
You know, we have to make informed decisions. We have to have, like the projector, we can look into that on our own.
Yeah.
We don't need, because Shane is overworked, so we don't need, we can look into that.
The article's idea from.
Can't afford
is a good idea.
Huh?
Can't afford it.
No. But if potentially it makes money, but that's what we need to look at.
It's not going to make
Makes
more
money?
I said if it does.
Doesn't.
No.
Well,
I
when.
think we should invest in things that don't make money.
Quality of life issues.
Sir, where are we at here?
We're on the, well, we've gone by the theater budget.
The agenda, you're on the agenda for this.
Agenda, yeah.
So the budget,
So we'll talk about having that maybe as an article or as not having it as an article.
Okay.
We can always eliminate it later if we, depending on our tax rate.
it confuses me when you're here, you know, and you're talking, I'm not sure. So this is the budget, I mean, the agenda for the next select
Yeah,
board meeting,
19th.
Correct.
Yeah.
not the joint meeting or,
No.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm confusing you there. Any other agenda items for the next meeting, which would be on the 19th of December? Okay, then we'll move along to the review the items for the joint meeting.
maybe we could have, BIFTA and the tree committee on the agenda. Have a little chat with them, see what they think. Tatiana, what do you think?
Sure.
On
And
the
maybe
select
incorporate merchants and people that live here.
Well, we've got a joint meeting that night also, so would you want to have that on the select board or
We
should?
do, we
should
do
be?
have the joint board meeting's at 5,
Right.
followed by your select board meeting. Plus you've got budget you gotta get into.
Probably not a good night for that.
Probably not.
Because it tends to take up a lot of time.
Mhm.
There's no leaves on the trees for 6 more
For a while.
Maybe a little vigilante can go out at night with his clippers. All right, because I know we had executive session, so.
Okay, so no other topics for the special joint meeting? Oh, okay, then moving down, review and approve orders, bills, and warrants, which you have circulated here. Need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Okay. We're going to move into other business. Any other business by any board members? We'll start off with Cass, if you would. No?
Nope.
Ann?
There was an article in the Reformer about the Select Board of Bennington. They're starting to have some concerns about these cars from Vermont Railway just being parked with propane and other noxious chemicals. So it's a pretty serious thing, and they understand they don't really, have any jurisdiction over the railroad because it's federal and they're close to God. So I think we need to voice our concerns because a lot of them are parked in Bartonsville. I don't know if they're parked over here or if this is just for maintenance, but that's parked near a dam and some oil tanks, so if they are over there.
I understand they're increasing speeds out in our Bartonsville as well. I think Susan mentioned that.
25 miles an hour.
Mhm.
So maybe we need to talk more about that.
Maybe with Dennis,
Yeah,
from an emergency management standpoint.
yeah. That's pretty serious.
Mhm.
Like,
Anything-
remember Loch Magontic in Quebec?
Yes. right,
Yeah.
yes, Yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
It was tragic.
yeah.
Anything else, Ann?
Yeah, and there was like a fundraiser it wasn't exactly a fundraiser, I think Deb sent it. It's like you wrap scarves around poles, and there was a little note on it that says, if you're cold, take one. It's just to make people aware of how cold it is, and so I said I would bring it up. I'm not even sure if we need approval, depending on if they're on lampposts or anything. We need to ask the town for that.
The problem with that is, well, I don't know what's being wrapped, I don't know who's going to do it. And if we
It's a scarf.
If we have to take them off afterwards.
No, we'll take them down. It's a scarf, and you wrap them around a pole, and there's a note that said, if you're cold, please take one.
Do the folks that wrap them in macrame or whatever? do
Oh,
they
I
get-
was waiting for someone
they
to
get
bring that
approval?
up.
No, they didn't.
No.
They didn't.
I think that's a great
I don't know what
idea.
it's called.
The guerrilla
Crochet.
macrame people, I think it's one of the most horrendously ugly things that's ever been done to this village.
I'm talking about scarves now.
I know. I'll restrain myself.
I'm mentioning that they did it without asking anyone,
So
questioning.
better to beg forgiveness than to ask for permission. I like that.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been an issue, so that's maybe part of it.
So we can just do this?
Go for it, Ann. Just go for it.
Put that in the minutes, Karen?
But if it becomes an
You need a
issue,
motion?
we reserve the right to remove anything on town property that becomes
So
an
if I
issue,
see you
safety
wearing a
issue.
bright pink Angora scarf, I know that you
See
took
me
it.
at the next meeting wearing a scarf, you'll know.
All right.
Okay, Gaetano, anything else?
People that start.
Sure. Couple questions.
You know.
I don't know if this is village, but people have questioned why the lights were out on the Christmas tree at night.
I can answer that.
Something happened with the,
Somebody messed with the timer,
yeah.
Okay,
and it's fixed.
Who
it's
was
all good
that?
now?
We don't
And they
know.
normally stay on during the day?
No, they
They
go
were on
on
today.
at dusk.
Somebody messed with the timer.
Yeah, they should be.
But they were on today. That's not normal?
During the day?
Yes.
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't know that.
Maybe because it was dark.
Oh, probably, well, maybe it's a light
Nice.
sensitive
It
thing.
doesn't cost anything.
I thought it was a timer.
That's what
Maybe it's
that's
supposed to
what I
cost
was
them.
told. It was a
Cost a couple
timer.
of pennies.
Some of those timers are hard to figure out.
We did get a complaint. I passed it on and I was told it was a timer.
And then wondering where the signs were at for local deliveries only.
Yeah, Mike has dealt with the signed person at the state, and it was late last week when I saw the stuff back and forth. I haven't been able to get to it.
So Mike was
Mike
down.
Hines was following up on that.
And did we ever come to a resolution of why there's still 99,000-pound vehicles coming through the square? Is it?
No,
It's a state road, town road?
I apologize for not following up, but I had a bit of a bomb dropped on me last week or so, and just have been working on that nonstop.
I did see
And
the
budget.
DMV in the village tonight when I came home.
What's that?
I did see the DMV police,
Yeah.
Atkinson and Rockingham, when I came
Well,
home. to it.
but nobody knows if it's illegal, because the
Yeah.
guy told me it wasn't.
Not to peddle
Trying to
backwards,
find
but
out.
maybe that would be a good topic for our joint board meeting.
I'm just
As
looking
part
for
of
an
it is
answer.
enforcement, and part of it is
Yeah.
signage, and
And last,
I've had on my to-do list to contact, there's two people at the state I need to contact, and I just,
last
too
question,
many
I
things.
think it's
to-
already on there, but I'll check.
the town hall, the roof structural report status?
Yeah, that's something I want on the agenda for the next meeting, but we'll have an estimate of cost this Friday, is what I'm told by the engineers. But in doing their analysis, they're going to come in, Bob Stevens and John Sacoccio, who are well, Bob is the principal, it could be Brett Sanderson, the other principal. They're going to come in at the next meeting to do a presentation to the board
Is it
on where we
Brett
need to go.
Sanderson?
What?
Brett Sanderson?
Brett?
But-
They'll be here on the 19th?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And the only thing I have is Bonnie had mentioned earlier about the Canal Street and the speed. I don't know if maybe
That's-
could just mention it to Ron. Maybe there'd be some emphasis down there when they're in the area. Other than that, I don't
There was
have
a
anything.
big trailer parked right in the corner there this morning. And that sure slowed down traffic for a
Nice
while.
traffic calming device.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other business from anybody else here tonight? Okay, we'll move it along. I'm looking for a motion for an executive session.
Who wants to read this?
oh, by all means.
No, you go ahead.
There's two, there are going to be two, so you just need to do the first one. You're going to have to come out and go back in.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge of pending or probable civil litigation or a prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party will clearly place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage by disclosing grievance procedure.
What?
Let me see that.
We're like,
You said first, it said
Somebody
first.
getting fired?
That's the problem with cut and paste, I think, sometimes.
yeah. Could have been weirder.
We should have
But now-
seconded.
For disclosing litigation.
Great, thank you.
Carrie?
From the top,
So many executive sessions
No,
lately.
put the other thing.
at a substantial disadvantage by disclosing litigation.
Second?
I mo-
Second?
You gotta vote on that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous, the ayes have it.
You got another one.
The first again?
No, the second. That one.
I move that the Rockingham Selectboard enters executive session for pending or probable civil litigation or a prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party under provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of the Vermont statutes, and invite Municipal Manager Shane O'Keefe to attend.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion's passed.